Hey everybody, it's your old cousin Jack with another episode of Woodcarving Weekly. So today, what we're going to talk about is tools. Love to talk about tools. We'll also have some information for you about Facebook carving groups. There's a bunch of them, and I'll bet you there's at least one, probably many, just for you. And more information from the International Association of Woodcarvers and what's available for you on their YouTube channel. And then we'll just spin around YouTube in general, and I'll share some videos with you. There's one in particular. It's kind of a nutty idea, and I think you'll enjoy that. Let's talk about tools. So today I want to draw your attention to the mighty skew, right? I have a few of them. I have a few skew, and I want to go over a few things with you. First of all, do you need one, right? And some carvers may have one and not really be sure what to do with it. Well, the skew is a fantastic tool for a number of things. So it's angled in a way that allows you to get into some tight spots that your knife might not be able to reach into, or a straight or flat chisel would not be able to reach into. The skew is also really useful for rounding over shapes. Let's say you're rounding the cheek of a chubby Santa face. Skew can help you do that. It's also a useful tool for those spots where your grain is going squirrely. You know, you try and carve in one direction and the grain says nope. Try the other direction and it's like, wait a minute, that's not it either. Maybe that grain is twisted or it's running in cross directions. Well, the skew is a very useful tool for cutting across the grain in those spots where you're having real difficulty with tear out from the wood. So if you don't have a skew, you might want to get one. So, and there are, like I say, many different types. You have some, for example, that are only beveled on one side. Basically like a chisel, right? There are others, of course, that are beveled on both sides. And the majority of mine are beveled on both sides, kind of like a knife. Now, I got curious and I thought, well, what is it? Is the skew a chisel? Is it a knife because it's beveled on both sides? Is it a gouge? Although it doesn't have any sweep. Well, I decided to let Google answer the question. And by the way, if you do Google skew knife, you'll get results. If you Google skew gouge, you'll get results, and skew chisel as well. Here's what Google has to say about it. So when I checked Google, it says the skew gouge, as a result, came up with about 3,500 results for skew gouge. So then I checked skew knife. Answer is 8,280. So many more results for skew knife than skew gouge. And then lastly, I checked skew chisel. And the results say 137,000 results. I think that's pretty affirmative. Yes, the skew is a chisel. There you go. Now, one of the things you'll find with the skew, it comes in lots of different sizes. So this is sort of a medium standard size skew. You may have one just like it. This is an ancient vintage William Butcher skew with a gigantor handle. Feels like a baseball bat, yeah. And right next to it, here's a little dockyard skew. Tiny little skew, gets into really small places, yeah. Really effective tool. In addition to different sizes, there are sometimes variations on the shape of a skew. Usually when we think about a skew, it's got this skewed angle, right? Unlike a flat chisel or what we call a standard chisel. This is a variation on a skew from Hillbilly. This is a Hillbilly broadaxe knife, and it operates and functions a lot like a skew, but you can see that the edge is a little rounded, right? It's beveled on both sides. There's no sweep, so it's called a broadaxe knife. Somewhat of a skew, right? So if you don't have a skew, you may want to consider getting one. And if you do have one, you may be using it already, right? Do you have a favorite tool that you like to go to in those spots where your knife can't reach? Share your thoughts in the comments below the video. Well, let's talk about Facebook groups. And especially if you're a person who's maybe not on Facebook, or you are, but you're not aware of the different groups that are out there and available. There are so many wood carving and whittling groups, and some of them are really specialized. There are groups for people who are chip carvers, groups for chainsaw carvers, groups for spoon carvers, groups for people who like to carve walking sticks, and of course there are caricature carver groups and whittling. There are groups about tools. So check them out. Just get on Facebook and look for different groups and join. You'll find that the people in those communities are very helpful and gracious. And so I do encourage you to check it out. And one of the groups that's really worthwhile to become a member of is the WoodCarving Illustrated Facebook group. And one of the reasons, for example, is you'll find that they'll provide information to you about free stuff. Every week, for example, they're going to be providing links and information for free wood carving patterns. Recently, there was a post about a Hillbilly chess set and a full set of patterns for the Hillbilly chess set, and it's free on their website. So I do encourage you to check out WoodCarving Illustrated's Facebook group. By the way, there was a post just yesterday that said, "We have a secret." And the secret is they're going to have a Santa carving contest, a carve-off. So that's going to be coming up sometime in October, and it will run through December. More news will be coming soon. Let's talk some more about the International Association of Wood Carvers. This group began back during COVID, and I've mentioned that in one of my previous videos. And, you know, it kind of harkens back to a question that was posted on a Facebook group by Gene Messer recently about carving clubs and carving groups. There are many of the local carving clubs that really suffered during the pandemic. You know, people weren't able to get together and share and hang out and carve together. And the International Association of Wood Carvers really kind of picked up the slack and started this group. It's on Zoom. The videos are recorded on Zoom and then uploaded to YouTube. So you have a couple of different ways that you can look at the videos that are provided. I want to let you know about some of the upcoming events. So this coming Saturday, Robert Rangel will be doing a carving demo and talking about his carving journey. After Robert Rangel, on the 23rd of September, we have the CCA Carving the Rockies. I think Blake is going out to Colorado and will be broadcasting from there. And then on the 30th, Rich Embling. October 7th, Tom Wilkinson. And then on the 14th of October, you have the Sevierville show. So I believe that's a wood carving show in Sevierville, Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. And then on October 21st, yes, it's Chucky Ducky Shuck. He's going to be the, the featured guest on that episode. Looking forward to that with Ducky. So every Saturday at 3 Eastern, you can log in to these various opportunities to hang out with other carvers, interact with them before the demo gets going, and sometimes after the demo is over. There's usually some lively discussion and folks just saying hello. The opportunity is available to everyone. You just log into Zoom, and on the screen you can see there's a Zoom ID number. So when you log into Zoom, you're prompted to enter a meeting code, and that meeting code is listed right here on this graphic, 310-460-3575. And then also, I should also mention that October 28th, Ashton Brown from Badger State Blades will also be appearing on the International Association of Woodcarvers. So if you are, for whatever reason, unable to make it to one of the meetings on a Saturday afternoon, you can go to YouTube and check out the videos. They're all recorded, like I said, and then uploaded onto YouTube. So even if you were not able to attend a specific meeting, you can certainly go and look and see what went on. Okay, let's take a spin around YouTube, and we're going to start with kind of a nutty idea. The tagua nut, that is. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, what in the world is a tagua nut? It's also known as vegetable ivory because it's got a kind of a look similar to ivory. The tagua nut grows in the Amazon region and in different parts of South America from the tagua palm. The nut can be used for food and sometimes is used for food. Locals sometimes mix the nut with some fruit to make a jam. And back in the day, the folks who are indigenous to the Amazon region used the tagua nut for well-being, and they felt that it had properties that were helpful for them. In fact, the Incas, the Aztecs, and the Mayans thought that it had spiritual properties and healthful benefits. So the tagua nut is harvested, sustainably harvested, and is available for people to do various carvings. And this week we're going to take a look at a YouTube channel called Random Acts of Carving. And the man who runs that is Mark Spurks. Mark is going to be carving a little tagua nut owl. He does power carving, and he's got a rotary tool, and kind of takes you through the steps of carving this owl. I think you'll enjoy that. He also has an older video on his site where he uses a tagua nut to carve a little eagle. So check that out while you're there. So something interesting about the tagua nut, it's often used to make jewelry. People slice it into different shapes and make earrings, for example. And back during World War I, the United States Army used thousands of tagua nuts to make buttons on their uniforms. Those buttons were later replaced with something called plastic. Now we have plastic choking our rivers and our oceans. Maybe we should go back to the old tagua nut. So another YouTube channel you'll want to check out if you haven't already. It's called Stinnett Sticks. Mike Stinnett is an amazing carver. He does a lot of walking sticks. And his videos are somewhat hypnotic, I think is a good way to describe them. When you're watching him work, he usually has some music in the background. He's got his little dog Pearl, who accompanies him regularly. And he does these amazing carvings where he uses usually a Dremel and some other power tools. He does some hand tools as well. A lot of hand painting for his projects. In his most recent video, he's carving a black-tailed rattlesnake cane. So he's got this piece of pine sitting around, and he decides, yep, I'm going to use that to make this black-tailed rattlesnake cane. The hand painting and the detail are really amazing. See if you get hypnotized when you go and check out his channel. He has almost 500,000 subscribers. His site is very popular. And I get the feeling that many of the people who watch these videos are not carvers, but they really enjoy just the ambiance of his carving videos. Well, we have another project showcase from Doug Linker. Doug is still doing that 1x1 series that is sponsored by WoodCarving Illustrated. And this week, Doug is showing you how to carve a tiny scarecrow. You know, we're into the autumn, the fall. It's that time of year where we see pumpkins and scarecrows and stuff like that. And Doug shows you a number of different variations on the tiny scarecrow that you could take on as the project. Then he goes and walks you through the carving of a tiny scarecrow. And of course, stick around after the carving is over because Doug is going to give you some tips and tricks on the painting and the finishing of your own little scarecrow. Have fun with it. And we have another video from Van Kelly. Van has been cranking out the videos regularly. This time around, it's a beginner project on carving a little hillbilly, and Van says it's keeping it simple this time. So there are no eyes in this carving and no hands. And that's pretty good for people who are still learning and maybe struggling with carving eyes or hands. This project will enable you to have some success because there's a hat covering up the eyes and the hands go into the pockets on this carving. Van uses a knife and a V-tool to make all the cuts, including the hair and the beard and what have you, overalls. It's a cute little hillbilly sitting on a base, and take a look at it. I think you'll enjoy. Well, folks, that's all we have for today. We'll see you again next week.